Welcome to this JC Steel project. There is a site-specific safety program developed for each one of our projects. This site-specific information is kept in a safety manual binder on site that is available for your reference. There are sections within the site-specific safety manual that contain a site-specific steel erection plan, crane information and logistics, and competent person and emergency contact information. There is also a hazard communication plan that includes the safety data sheets, or SDS for short, for all the materials that our company might be using on site, such as gasoline, diesel fuel, WD-40, and so forth. This information may be useful for choosing the correct protective equipment to use and also for aid purposes. All products are listed alphabetically together with their chemical makeup, flammability, and volatility. The SDS also tells you the emergency procedures to follow in the event of an accidental inhalation, absorption, or ingestion. You're welcome to look through the SDS book if you have any concerns about any products that you may be using. If another contractor on site is using a chemical or material that you may have safety concerns about, then please notify your supervisor, and they will coordinate to get the safety data sheets for that material. Each phase of work has a detailed job hazard analysis and pre-task plan developed for each crew to review on a daily basis. There will also be a site-specific orientation conducted that will inform you of issues pertaining to this project. If there is a question regarding OSHA requirements versus New York City Department of Building Standards or site-specific requirements, then please follow the more stringent requirement. The purpose of this video is to explain what you can expect from us and what we expect from you relating to safety. We expect a very high level of safety performance from you on this project, and we know that you are very capable to do so. We expect that you are able to document the training you have received to date, and will ask you to provide copies of these cards and certificates as needed. JC Steel also expects that you will attend daily safety huddles and weekly safety meetings or toolbox talks. JC Steel's policy is to provide safe conditions on every job site and to protect the health and safety of every employee and member of the public. Our commitment is to a safe workplace. Corporate management, supervisors, and employees must embody the proper attitudes toward injury and illness prevention for this program to be successful. It also requires cooperation in all health and safety matters, not only between corporate management, project team contractors, supervisors, and employees, but also between each employee and his or her fellow workers. Only through such a cooperative effort can a safety record in the best interest of all be established and maintained. Drugs and alcohol are absolutely prohibited on this site and will not be tolerated. There can be no smoking or vaping on any project site. Your work area, as well as the entire site, must be kept clean and free of debris. Trash barrels are provided for small items like coffee cups and lunch trash. Dumpsters are provided for larger trash. We're here to see that you make a living without risking your life. If you choose not to work safely, wear personal protective equipment, or play by the rules, you will be removed from this site. If you have any safety concerns or if other contractors are in violation and it is affecting your safety, stop working immediately. Inform your supervisor, shop steward, or any of the designated competent persons, and the matter will be addressed. Hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, and high visibility clothing must be worn at all times. If you do not have the necessary personal protective equipment, referred to as PPE, JC Steel will provide it to you. Please let your foreman or supervisor know immediately if there is anything that you need to maintain a high level of safety. If you should require retraining to perform your job safely, please inform your supervisor or competent person. Remember, training is meaningless unless you are committed to working safely. Personal protective equipment is useless if you don't wear it. You must heed what you have learned over time and not become complacent or indifferent to these important lessons. Your life and those of your coworkers could depend on it. A harness and a lanyard must be used on this project as part of a personal fall arrest system. Please maintain it in good condition. Inspect your harness and lanyard prior to the start of every shift. Inspect your harness for worn stitches or any cuts or burns to the webbing. If your harness or lanyard fails your inspection, turn them in to your supervisor for a replacement. The harness must be worn so that it fits snugly, with all buckles fastened. Be sure that the D-ring is located in the center of your back, just above your shoulder blades. The lanyard must be worn with the retractable housing attached directly to the D-ring on your harness and the other end attached to a tie-off point. When using your lanyard, make sure that the locking safety latch completely closes. You can't use a shock-absorbing lanyard attached to a retractable. Do not modify your harness or lanyard in any way. At heights greater than 15 feet, you will need to tie off at all times. That's 100% of the time. Not just when you are in a stationary position, not just when you are moving from point to point, but 100% of the time. No one except the connectors and deckers can be at heights above 15 feet without being tied off. At heights greater than 15 feet, we will provide you with a tie-off point. This tie-off point may be a single anchorage point or a horizontal lifeline similar to this. A controlled access zone or a controlled decking zone will be established below and adjacent to steel erection work. Please note that at some of our job sites, tying off for fall protection may be 6 feet depending on the project. When using or installing wire rope or steel cable horizontal lifelines for tie-off points, make sure there are 3 clamps at each end. Make sure the clamps are tight and installed with the U-bolt applied to the dead end of the cable. When using a synthetic rope horizontal lifeline, make sure that the bowline knots are properly tied to the shackles at each end. Always be aware of the fall clearance heights required in order to not hit a surface or any other obstructions below the area that you are working. If there is a situation where the necessary fall clearance is not being met, then the tie-off point needs to be raised to a higher point. All floor and wall openings must be protected if you are working around them. Additionally, floor and wall openings must be covered if you plan to work over them. A floor opening is defined as any void where the smallest dimension is 12 inches or more. A wall opening means a gap or void 30 inches or more high and 18 inches or more wide in a wall or partition through which employees can fall to a lower level. A hole means a gap or void 2 inches or more in its least dimension in a floor, roof, or other walking or working surface. All ladders are to be extended at least 3 feet above the working surface they are intended to reach, and must be stable at the bottom and tied off at the top. Make sure that the top and bottom of the ladder is clear of any debris, cables, rebar, or anything else that might hinder safe access to the ladder. Use the 4-to-1 rule when setting up the ladder. This means that for every 4 feet of ladder height, the bottom of the ladder should be 1 foot further back from the top. For example, a 12-foot ladder should be 3 feet from the vertical surface. Inspect ladders every day for cracked rungs or other damage. Make sure you take damaged ladders out of service immediately, as the next person might not notice the issue. Check extension cords and power tools prior to each use for cuts, bare wires, missing ground prongs, or anything else that might make these unsafe. Don't tie extension cords together like this, as it damages the insulation adjacent to the plug and creates a potential hazard. Plug power tools into GFCI protected receptacles or adapters only, and test the receptacle prior to each use. Testing it will show that the breaker is working and that power is going to the receptacle. You can't test a GFCI receptacle that doesn't have power going into it. The guards must be maintained on any cutting or grinding equipment. Powder-actuated tools should also be tested each day, and all tools shall be used with the correct shield, guard, or attachment recommended by the manufacturer. The ammo strips need to be collected and properly disposed of immediately after use. If any tools or equipment need to be repaired, they should be tagged and taken out of service until the repairs are made or the item is replaced. Be sure to confirm the site-specific procedures for following up on hot work permits, and be prepared to cover your FDNY certificates of fitness when engaging in hot work tasks. When performing hot work, including cutting, grinding, burning, or welding, a fire extinguisher must be within 30 feet of you, and a fire watch must be present. Make sure that all acetylene and oxygen cylinders are separated by at least 20 feet when in storage, and that they're secured upright with non-burning materials such as wire, chains, or cables. Check that all cylinder caps are on when not in use. When using tanks in a cart, make sure they are secured and that the cart is on fairly level ground. Fire extinguishers should be near the cart. Check hoses and gauges for leaks during setup, and check that the anti-blowback valves or flash arresters are in use. Do a visual inspection of the gauges, and if any component is broken or missing, replace it, and tag the broken one for repair. When attaching the gauges or breaking down at the end of a shift, be sure the pressure screw handle is turned all the way counterclockwise so that the gauge reads 0. When you attach the gauge to the tank, turn on the tank and adjust the gauge to the desired pressure. Safety glasses, burning goggles, and/or face shields are required when burning, cutting, or grinding. Please confirm the proper filter lens shade number is being used for protection against radiant energy when wearing a welding shield. Lifts should not be operated without adequate training. Please also read the instructions prior to using the machines. Make sure you wear your harness and lanyard, and tie off to the tie-off points in the basket. Please don't use the man lift as an elevator. When deckers are installing flooring or roof decking more than 15 feet above a lower unprotected surface, all other operations must stay out of that area. This is known as a controlled decking zone, or CDZ. The controlled decking zone must be clearly marked with signs to let everyone know that it is, in fact, a controlled decking zone, and no one other than the deckers should enter that area. The controlled decking zone cannot be more than 90 feet by 90 feet. That's approximately 3 bays by 3 bays. Before moving to a new area, the controlled decking zone must be completed and the safety post and cable system installed if required. All openings that will be cut in the deck must be ready to be protected prior to cutting them. Basically what we're saying is if deckers are installing deck above 15 feet, stay out of the area until all leading edges and openings are protected. closing, if for any reason you feel that you are not familiar with a particular tool, procedure, or piece of equipment, please ask your supervisor for additional training. Do not proceed with anything that you are not familiar with. You'll only risk injury to yourself or one of your fellow coworkers. We must always be vigilant to prevent the most common and serious accidents, such as falls, struck by, caught between, and electrocutions. Our goal is to achieve zero harm and not have any accidents, incidents, injuries, or illnesses. Please challenge and report any unsafe conditions to your supervisor immediately. Thank you, and remember, we get to work safely.